When does Snow White come out?
Or what?
They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
They are pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
And it's going to fail cataclysmically.
I think so too. I think
I watched some of the previews. It's ugly as sin.
The movie is doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
You know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
But I was basically the only person in the theater. Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad. The movie was absolutely terrible. It's not the single worst movie I've ever seen, but in every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
She has been sabotaging this film for years at this point.
You actually don't want to know what celebrities think politically.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
I'm so disappointed in Disney.
Ever wonder how a single interview can set off an internet firestorm and sabotage a multi-million-dollar Disney remake before it even hits theaters? Stick around, because the Rachel Zegler and Snow W. height controversy might be the biggest cautionary tale in Hollywood right now. So here's the deal. Disney planned a live-action Snow White with hopes of recreating that old-school magic and box office success, but instead of crowds lining up to see it, we got scandal, backlash, and near-empty theaters. Rumors swirled that Disney spent a jaw-dropping budget, some say up to $300 million only to watch it all unravel, thanks to a few controversial remarks from its lead actress, Rachel Zegler.
Disney also abolished its famous princes and princesses because they're gender stereotypes. Really? Can't we just have princes and princesses anymore?
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Nobody wants a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
Snow White isn't just any film. The original 1937 classic was Disney's very first animated feature and a cornerstone of the company's legacy. For decades, it's been a symbol of childhood wonder. Reimagining such a beloved story was always going to be risky, but fans were initially curious, would it capture the classic Disney charm? Or would it take a modern twist on the old fairy tale? Turns out, the biggest twist had nothing to do with the plot and everything to do with the public relations meltdown that followed.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of happy.
Rachel Zegler.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
She's also just a spoiled, entitled, narcissistic brat.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Enter Rachel Zegler, a talented young actress fresh off of West Side Story, handpicked to carry the legendary role of Snow White. Fans were excited until she started talking about the original film. In interviews, Zegler didn't just say the 1937 classic was dated. She went on, calling the prince a stalker and poking fun at the idea that Snow White's dream was to find true love. Now, criticizing older fairy tales is nothing new. Audiences today are more aware of questionable themes that might crop up in stories from nearly a century ago. But the real problem was how she said it.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Oh my God.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a Hans and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
So no prince or a different kind of prince? I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you? Oh my God. Are you Disney?
The internet lit up with outrage. Longtime Disney fans felt Zegler was disrespecting the film that started it all. This wasn't just a momentary backlash. Anger poured in from social media, fan forums, and even casual moviegoers who said they weren't planning to watch a movie whose stars seemed to look down on the classic. Many saw it as a direct assault on nostalgia, a slap in the face to Disney's legacy. While some fans appreciated a fresh perspective, the overwhelming sentiment was that she crossed a line, mocking the essence of what made Snow White so treasured. So how did Disney respond? Allegedly, producers flew out to have private talks with Zegler, basically telling her, stop mocking the very story we're trying to sell. They reportedly even assigned her a media consultant to keep future interviews on track. But by then, the damage was done.
What is the premise? What is the story?
It's a love story. It's a love story.
It's a dream for a girl to grow.
They flew an executive, one of the producers, out to go visit personally with Rachel Zegler to say, could you please take that down? Because we understand you can have your political views, but those aren't really helpful while you're trying to build an audience for a movie. But like, maybe not, maybe just take the tweet down. And she wouldn't. And then they had to hire a special media consultant for her to follow her around all the time and make sure she didn't continue shitting on Snow White and the prince and young love and women who want to get married. The son of that producer who got on the plane to go over and say, would you please, for the love of God, take this down? And she wouldn't, was all on Instagram yesterday admitting it all.
Zegler doubled down on her stance in a now infamous social media post. She appeared in an empty theater, joking about the lack of audiences. It was gasoline on the fire. Critics, fans, and fellow Disney watchers tore into her, calling her behavior arrogant, clueless, and peak narcissism. When the film finally opened, it was a ghost town in most theaters. Early reports claimed the movie had one of the worst openings for a Disney remake. All those budget dollars on special effects, marketing, and promotions went down the drain in a box office bloodbath.
And then Jonah Platt, who's the son of the producer of the film, responded and said, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew. Believes that she should be able to express herself regardless of the consequences to everybody else. In reality, you have a job. You're getting paid to do this job. You signed on the dotted line. And that job comes with certain basic responsibilities. One of the most basic is the responsibility to control yourself and comport yourself a certain way publicly so that you don't harm the project and thereby harm all the hundreds of other people.
So what do you think the odds are of this person working ever again?
And it didn't stop there. Reviewers tore into the movie for being bland and soulless. Though many admitted the actual film was overshadowed by the controversy. Some critics labeled it a woke train wreck, others just called it an undercooked remake that offered nothing new except an earful of disrespect. For the original's heart, the meltdown didn't just hurt ticket sales. It threatened Rachel Zegler's future in Hollywood. Rumors spread that multiple roles she was set for either fell through or went cold suddenly. Her name was synonymous with a box office fiasco, something no studio wants to risk when they're pouring millions into a film. The fiasco also highlighted Disney's bigger problems. One flop might be forgiven, but Disney's had a string of underperforming releases. Fans started asking if The House of Mouse had lost touch with its audience. By focusing more on modern politics than timeless storytelling, critics hammered Disney executives, pointing out that it made no sense to let the lead actress trash the original fairy tale. In promotional interviews,
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
It really does seem to me that this is like a 19-year-old's version of feminism. You've got to reject men. They have to be painted as toxically masculine. You have to spit on true love. Like that is not a value that is universal. You've got to get rid of the love storyline and focus more on how she wants to be, CEO of IBM.
So, did any fans side with Zegler? Surprisingly, yes. Some people argued the original Snow White had archaic elements, so a modern overhaul was fair. They praised Zegler for speaking her mind, suggesting Disney should move forward, not remain stuck in 1937's mindset. But even some supporters admitted that her tone-mocking and dismissive was the real problem. The real takeaway: modern updates to classic stories don't have to alienate loyal fans. You can refresh a fairy tale without insulting it. The fiasco around Snow White shows what happens when the star of the show belittles the core narrative and, by extension, the fan base that cherishes it.
What is the premise? What is the story?
It's a love story. It's a love story.
It's a dream for a girl to grow.
They flew an executive, one of the producers, out to go visit personally with Rachel Zegler to say, could you please take that down? Because we understand you can have your political views, but those aren't really helpful while you're trying to build an audience for a movie. But maybe just take the tweet down. And she wouldn't. And then they had to hire a special media consultant for her to follow her around all the time and make sure she didn't continue shitting on Snow White and the prince and young love and women who want to get married. The son of that producer who got on the plane to go over and say, would you please, for the love of God, take this down? And she wouldn't, was all on Instagram yesterday admitting it all.
The question now is whether Disney will learn from this. Will they place tighter controls on how actors represent their movies? Will stars learn to balance personal opinions With respect for the material they're promoting, this entire saga is a loud, flashing warning to studios everywhere if the lead actor antagonizes the core audience. You might be left with empty seats. Even an extravagant budget and a household name property like Snow White can't guarantee success. In a digital age, word spreads fast clips of Zegler's interviews went viral, fueling memes and criticisms that overshadowed any official marketing campaign. Hollywood thrives on second chances, but the internet, it never forgets. Rachel Zegler might bounce back if she takes accountability, if studios think she's still worth the risk. But for now, her name might remain tied to this fiasco for a long time.
We have a really important presidential election for you to vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Thanks.
She wasn't able to quantify or to say what Kamala stood for, what the Democrats were going to bring into place.
But you are not entitled to call for Trump supporters to be harmed. Like, you are actually not entitled to do that. And so let me just remind you, Rachel Zegler, of what the map looks like, just so you can understand when your Disney movie is coming out, how many people you are wishing harm upon.
Hollywood is no stranger to controversies and flops. But this Snow White episode became a masterclass in how not to handle PR traditionally. A film's lead promotes the movie's strengths, connecting with fans, especially those who cherish the legacy instead. Disney watchers got an actress dishing snarky comments about how outdated Snow White is, alienating everyone who grew up loving that story. Talk about brand chaos. One negative comment might have been manageable, but Zegler kept at it, fueling the outrage. The meltdown overshadowed every other aspect of the film, including any potential redeeming qualities.
Like, this is America right now. I will love you through these 4 years as best I can. F Donald Trump. Yeah, totally stable thing for her to be posting, wishing harm upon Trump voters, wishing that we have no peace.
So, what do you think? Is this the death knell for Disney's live-action remakes? Or just a stumbling block on their path to rebooting every classic in their vault? Did Rachel Zegler cross the line by mocking Snow White? Or was she simply voicing a modern perspective? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into Hollywood's most fascinating scandals. Until next time, thanks for watching.